Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Today we're going to do a brief overview looking at Linux Mint Mate. Now, of course, Linux Mint just released their new 19.2 version at the time I'm recording this, the Cinnamon, the Mate, and the XFCE. And I already did several videos on the Cinnamon, and I wanted to look at the Mate. So the first part of this video, we're just going to go very quickly over what has changed. There's not a ton. A lot of the changes were the things that are consistent between all of the changes, mostly update managers, a few Mint app things. There are a couple of Mate-specific items, primarily dealing with new preferences and options inside of the menu. But then the second part of this video is if you are new to Linux or Linux Mint Mate, we're just going to do a brief overview of the system for you and show you what it looks like. So with that, down here is the what is new. So of course, the Mint Update Manager is that you're going to find that this is going to be consistent in all of these. Let me just make this bigger for you guys. You're going to find that this is consistent in all of them, Cinnamon, XFCE, and Mate. So the ability to see when kernels are supported until, see what kernels are installed. You can add new kernels, including the ability to add kernel 5, which somebody did correct me on. I think that was available in 19.1. I don't remember it being there, but I also don't change my kernels much in Mint, so whatever. But anyway, for sure, absolutely, for sure, you can get kernel 5.0, although it does ship, I think, with 4.15, mostly because that just has some of the best stability right now with most hardware. Although if you are running the latest hardware, you are going to need to jump up to a higher kernel, particularly the new Ryzen chips. You would need kernel 5 to run those. So you do have that option as well. There's also some tools for non-generic kernels and options setting inside of those. Just a few other odds and ends system things inside of the basic Mint. So, you know, shutdown, reboot is inhibited when automatic tasks are done. There's better error logging. Apt no longer makes the manager fail if it's still busy doing something else. Like, you know, I'll go into a terminal, install something, and then that's still doing something. I'll go into the update manager and or the software center, trying to install something and get an error. They've gotten rid of that. It just waits now until the other process is done running. So little odds and ends like that. It'll also tell you when it's coming to the end of life. Now, as far as the specific to the Mate is, they have added new options inside of the menu so that you can now change the position of the search bar. Preferences were rewritten, so you have some other settings and apps inside of the menu itself. Software manager is going to be consistent. There's some other desktop setting keys in here as well, introducing XApp G settings widgets. So again, not a lot of serious different things. Most of the stuff is going to be under the hood type items that are going to be deeply beneficial. They're just not specifically the wow factor things, because this is a point release. This isn't a whole new version. This isn't going from Linux Mint 18 to Linux Mint 19, which did introduce quite a lot of different changes. So let's go ahead and jump on over to the desktop itself and see what that looks like. Of course, here we are booting up. Okay, so here on our login screen here, we pretty much only have one option, I believe, for logging in. If you had like Cinnamon or something, you'd have a few options. You'd have a software rendering, a fallback, things like that. There's really only one desktop on this. Now, if you were to install a secondary desktop, you would then start to see an option over here to pick which desktop you're on. But we're just going to go ahead and log into this guy here. Now, when I first created the system, it did not boot full screen. Hopefully it does now, but it's not. This is one of the problems I have. Guys, don't tell my good friend Toss, but I don't actually like Mate. Just so you guys know. I am not a fan of Mate. I do run Linux Mint Mate on my on what is termed my backup computer, which is a computer that runs all of my personal backup files. And I find that it is quite a bit weird and buggy over there as well. So there we are. Now we're set full screen in this. And I just find that to me, it runs a lot buggy. To me, the file manager is not very good. The file manager crashes on it all the time for me. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just not my personal cup of tea. Now, as far as Linux Mint Mate, when you first boot it up, You do get the welcome screen. This is one of the things that makes Linux Mint so good. All of the flavors are going to have this. So you have your first steps. So the first one, system snapshots. This is like in Windows where you have your system restore points. So this does not make a backup of any of your files, but it makes a backup of the operating system. So if something goes goofy in an update or whatever else, you can roll back using this. And this application is called Time Shift, and you can also find it in the menu just searching for Time Shift, which I'm not sure. I think it's under System Tools, Time Shift. All right, so we're not going to set that up because this is a virtual machine. I don't have the room for that. Now the next thing is the driver manager. So the driver manager, this is going to check for any drivers that you might need. So Linux Mint will have more proprietary drivers than a lot of other systems. It does that because their philosophy is we want a system that works rather than like a Fedora, which says we want a philosophy that's only open source out of the box. Both are good philosophies. You just have to decide for yourself which one you want to use. If you are a new Linux person, you probably don't want to go with like the Mint branch where things are working for you. But in this case here, we do have the ability to set up the VirtualBox guest editions, which will actually give me that full screen on load. So I could actually install that. But if you were to have issues with Wi-Fi drivers, video drivers, other odds and ends, interesting hardware you might have in your system, it's going to appear in this system as well. Now, you might ask, well, how do I get this installed if I don't have Wi-Fi? Well, you're going to need to get your computer on an internet somehow. My favorite methods, you can either use a USB wireless dongle, which usually don't have a problem working with Linux out of the box. It's just certain manufacturers of wireless cards. The other thing you can do is if you have a smartphone, you can usually bridge your internet with your charging cable. You can actually bridge the internet through the charging cable. That's another way. Or if you have the ability, a USB to Ethernet cable, there's a number of ways that you can actually put internet on a laptop that doesn't have a wireless card. All right, the other thing is the update manager. Now, I've already run updates. The update manager on Linux Mint will give you a little indicator down the bottom. So the shield with a check mark means the system is up to date. It will be blue and have an exclamation point if there is an update that it says that you need to install. And if you get the shield with a red X, it means it cannot check for updates. Usually it means an internet connection is not working or it can't reach a package mirror or something like that. All right, system settings. This is, you have your control center. So this is going to be a little bit different than your Cinnamon because the control center, like your settings option, would be in Windows similar to a control panel. This is dependent on the desktop environment. So Linux Mint has 3 desktop environments. You have Cinnamon, you have Mate, which we're looking at here, and you have XFCE. All right, so inside of here, we have access to a lot of these things like your driver managers in here, printers, package managers, update managers, a lot of different administration tools, various tools relating to your hardware, various tools relating to your network, how your system looks, and then individual things relating to your user account. So full system administration, the stuff on the computer, the networkiness, how the system works, and how your individual setup is administered. So that's your system settings. You have your software manager. This is where you are going to install new software. Now in Linux, you can install software which are termed packages using the command line, which you saw at the very beginning when I was just adjusting the screen resolution. Or you can use this system here. So, you like to play video games, just boot this guy up here, click on your Steam, and it's going to go ahead and install after you give it your password. Okay, so now it's installing Steam for us. And while that's doing that, you can go back and you want to do Spotify, Skype, Dropbox, WhatsApp. Ugh. All right, but anyway, hey, you can use Linux for a lot of cool things. Now, Calibri is a ebook management. I use Calibri. Stellarium is an awesome star chart. Love that application. FileZilla is what I use for managing things. And then, of course, you can go into individual categories. So inside of your graphics, so what do you have? I don't know why VLC is under graphics, but hey, why not? Blender, 3D rendering animations. You have Inkscape, which is very compatible to Adobe Illustrator. There's just a variety of different things in here. So 3D, drawing tools, photography tools. So you just come in here and figure out what you would like to use. As far as games, you have a variety of different games over here. And then, just accessories, fonts, games, just a variety of different things inside of your software manager. It looks like Steam is done installing. So it has the check mark there indicating that it is installed on our system. All right, we also have the firewall. So the firewall is, like most systems, is generally disabled on the first startup just because you might need to do some tweaks or configurations considering your system, but you can come over here and click the status and toggle this guy on. All right, so I'm just gonna keep it off, turned off for now. All right, so there is your welcome screen. Of course, if you need to get back to that, just come here and just type welcome in your search button and you can get back to your welcome screen. All right, so as far as what does the system have on the default, Linux Mint is not seriously light on applications. This is actually one of the reasons I like it is because it feels to me like a complete system. Sure, it does install a few applications I generally don't use and uninstall on a system that is, a niche system. But we have archive management, calculators, calendar maps, character maps, I should say, calendars, menu editors, just a variety of different tools, which are all things that, sure, you may not use them every single day, but when you need them, they are here. And that is a useful thing. They do have games. Of course, the games application only showed up because I installed Steam. That would not be there. There's GIMP. Pix is to organize your images. You have your simple scan. Here we have, I don't generally use HexChat. Or if it's my video production machines, I don't actually use email. So I would just usually come in here and uninstall it. Just right click it and uninstall it just to get rid of it. Office, I do use the LibreOffice suite as a full feature free Office suite, including all of your databasing, writing stuff, things like that. And then here's just a variety of different multimedia. So the media player will play movies or music. VLC is a more robust media player. Rhythmbox is one that you can do with podcasts as well. So if there's a podcast you like to subscribe to, Rhythmbox can actually grab your podcast for you. So you have your podcast waiting for you when you're ready to work in the morning. And then a variety of different system tools. So people always like to know how much RAM is the system using. So this guy right now, even after we've been tinkering with it, is about 700 megabytes of memory, which is why Mate is actually a good desktop environment. It's very light on our resources. All right, and as far as everything else, so here's administration and here is our preferences. So you can actually get to your basic control center, covers all of these. So the administration, if you remember those items in the administration or in the preferences, you can get to all of those over here in the control center. So as far as how you can do your theming and things, some people like the theming, some people don't. Some people are just like, hey, as long as the computer works, that's fine. But if you're like me, I love those old days of being on Windows back in 95, 98 days. You could customize your desktop and all these cool things. Well, you have that ability. So if you want to do, light themes or dark themes, if you want to highlight with certain colors, and you can actually install more themes. You can see the Get New Themes online here. So if you want to go with something like more of a red theme, you can do something like that. As far as backgrounds, Linux Mint always gives you just some of the most beautiful backgrounds. So there's just a lot of options here you can pick from. We'll just go with that one for now. And changing around your fonts, your interfaces, so your menu icons and menus, that is these icons right here in this menu. So if I were to turn these off, I think that's the one. Yep, that's where that one is. And then show icons on buttons, so you can see now our buttons have icons. So you can make your system really pretty as well. So these are some of the cool things about using Linux in general. And this is just how you would adjust it on Mate. Each one's a little bit different. All right, so you have your ability to control like your startup applications, what is actually booting up on startups. You can actually add and remove different things. You can see there's a lot in here. So like if this is something I would never print from, I might disable the print queue, just because I want to save a bunch of things. So you can come in here and completely customize this guy. As far as your preferred applications, if you have a variety of applications for different things, you can choose which one is your preferred right inside this list. So actually, I might actually like to do media player for both music and video. We have a variety of text editors, single file manager, office suites. All right. So there is just a brief tour of Mate, particularly Linux Mint Mate. You can see that I'm not a big fan of this theming, but at least you had the ability to make your theme adjustments. So you can actually, let's go ahead and look at right-click, edit menu. Nope, I'm sorry, it was menu options. Right-click, preferences. This is where we have a couple of new features in here. So if you go down to applications, you can show the search bar at the top. So if I look at my menu right now, you can see the search bars at the bottom. If you want it on the top, toggle that button. Now the search bar moves up to the top. Show applications comments, so that's this line down here. So if I turn this guy off, it just tells me what my applications are. It doesn't give me the description. And then category icons, this is the icons on this one. And then, so we can turn this guy back on. Search for packages to install. If you're doing a search or something, if I do, let me see, if I do evolution, then let's see, I'm seeing if, let me see if this is doing what I think it's going to do. No, I'm not sure what that's doing. I figure that search for packages to install would say, hey, because evolution is a package. Not sure what that one's doing exactly. Enable the internet search. This is the one all right, this is the one that actually irritated a lot of people about Ubuntu. You know, when you would go in and you would search for something, and it would go out. Now, in this case here, it does not go out unless you come in and search. Okay? You'd have to come in and search. Click this button. This is going to boot up a web browser. What Ubuntu used to do is if you search for something in the search bar, it would actually go online and show you search results in the bar. That's kind of, a lot of people didn't like that. So toggling this guy off is going to make sure that you're not going to see those options as well. Let me go back and look at, okay, there you go. That's what that search for packages to install is. I'm sorry, I just don't use this menu enough to remember everything. All right, so that is some of the settings. Of course, over here, you can show the icon button or not. Here's what the button is. So if you take this guy off, it just says menu down here. We can turn it back on. We can change the button text. We can remove the button text there. So now we just have the icon, if that's your thing. And then, of course, you can click over here and you can change the icon to something else. You can just install your own custom button over there. All right, so let's see. There's your appearances. So you can change this to be a separate theme independent of the rest of your desktop theme. So if you wanted to do something specifically like that, desktop theme is just going to match the rest of your desktop. All right, and then you can change your sizes of your individual buttons. You can adjust your favorites column. Is this 1 or 2? So here's your favorites list. So you can say how many columns do I have here. So here's 3 columns. So you can do a variety of different things. Swap generic names and main names. So web browser, mail client. If you know exactly the one you're looking for, you can toggle that and it's going to give you the primary name on top. All right, so that is some of the changes and some of the features of using Linux Mint Mate. So hopefully that is helpful for you if this is your first time looking at it. Linux is not scary. It is actually fun and easy to use. Let me know your thoughts or your experiences with Linux Mint Mate or any of your other favorite Linux distros in the comments down below.